Ladies and gentlemen, we are finally here. This is the Ground and Poundcast. Just two guys that like to talk about all things MMA, mostly UFC, but we're going to talk about all things combat sports. So I got Rick on the line. Say hi to everyone, Rick.
Yeah, hello everybody. Glad to be here. This is going to be a good time. If you like to talk, if you like to hear people talk, then this is where it's at. It's UFC, it's MMA, it's happening. We like to preview things, we like to review things, and we like to have a good time doing it.
Yeah, we might do fight predictions, but whatever you do, do not place your bets on our fight predictions because we we don't have the best batting average when it comes to that. But it's fun, and we could get other people involved in the conversation. If people want to contact us and give us your predictions, give us your feedback to things that we say, we're gonna have a lot of hot takes, maybe even cold takes, lukewarm takes. But it's gonna be a fun time. This is basically, the whole focus of this podcast is going to be just casual conversation between two fans of the sport, just discussing anything and everything, upcoming news, latest rumors. We could talk dream matches, predictions on upcoming fights, reviews of previous fights. What do we think's next when we look at, how a pay-per-view just played out, what we think is next for the winners and the losers and whatnot. So
We like to see where things go, the direction of things, and I'm always talking about, well, this could be a big fight or they have to make this fight. We'd like to discuss those types of things, and we'd like to get your feedback as well. This is going to be an open podcast, open forum, so we encourage, the back and forth. So we're going to have lots of hot takes, as he said. I have certain beliefs in certain ways that things go, and you have different disciplines, but what makes it so much fun is nobody really knows. And we talk about bets, and I'll throw $5 here or there, and it's guaranteed to go wrong. This won't be like other shows, but the good news is you can go against our picks and you'll probably do okay. So it's going to be fun. Good times.
Yeah, I think if I do want to do any kind of betting, I'm probably going to do a predictions episode with you, and then I'm going to look at everything we said, and I'm just going to bet the complete opposite, and it's pretty much guaranteed money.
Free money, man. Free
It
money.
absolutely is. I swear, man. Sometimes we've been doing predictions for quite a while, and hey, some days we do pretty good, and then some days it's like, oof. I'm good.
And then there's UFC 318 where I picked everything wrong. But it's the only time it's ever happened. I know a little something. I don't want to scare you away, but it does happen.
I've never had all wrong, but I've also never had all right. I've gone 1-4. I've gone 4-1. I usually go either 2-3 or 3-2. That's kind of the average. The last pay-per-view I watched, I actually didn't even do official predictions, but like when the fights were coming on, like in the moment, I'm like, I think this guy's going to win. I was actually right about all of them, but I didn't do like an official lay it out, look at everything, and do proper predictions, so I don't really count that, but that's probably the best I've done up to this point. If it wasn't for the fact that Ilia Topuria is so good, I would already have 5-0 because there's been two pay-per-views where I went 4-1, and the one was when I bet against Ilia Topuria. I should learn my lesson not to bet against that guy.
Ilia Topuria. So is he going to go up to welterweight?
Man, well, he was already fighting at 145. Now he's fighting 155. It's crazy to see him bounce between so many weight classes. Maybe. I mean, I think he has the talent to do it. But you look at the people that are at 170 is... Do you think 170 might be the deepest weight class when it comes to talent? If not, it's up there. It's maybe first or second, in my opinion.
It's certainly up there. Lightweight has forever been number one. I think right now it's actually maybe top to bottom, taking a little bit of a step down. The top 7 or so are elite. But you look at, once you get past about, Paddy Pimblett, Justin Gaethje, which I think of as like 5 and 6, it really does kind of fall off. I do believe Dan Hooker's number 7 at the moment. So that's the tipping point. Bantamweight's gotten deep. It's certainly a deep division. But, yeah, welterweight. Look at middleweight. You have new people in there right now. You have De Ritter who's coming up. You have Fluffy Rodriguez coming off a spectacular performance.
That's crazy.
And, of course, you have your known commodities as well. And just because Duplessis got embarrassed doesn't mean he's not a good fighter. Right. He's going to have opportunities. Cal Barrio is there. Malvov is there. You still have Adesanya in the mix. And, I mean, it's just Khamzat Chimaev runs the division now. So, yeah, top to bottom, it is very strong.
Yeah, I mean, I think every weight class from 145 up to 170 are pretty stacked. When you look at like the history of all the weight divisions of like how talented they are, there's been a lot of times where you have like one or two guys that are untouchable, then everybody else is like, yeah, they're not bad, but like they're not on their level at all. I say pretty much every weight class from 145 to 170 has pretty deep like roster currently. Heavyweight's always been the shallowest, but you know,
It does seem the heavier you get, the worse it gets. Light heavyweight is not nearly what it once was. I think a lot of people really got into MMA and UFC because of the light heavyweights, the Chuck
yes,
Liddells of the world, the John Bone Jones, which I know he's still more current, but he goes back a long ways, of course. Tito Ortiz, Ken Shamrock. I mean, it just goes all the way back. So I think people have always kind of taken to that division, but right now it's very weak. And then heavyweight, I believe, is even more weak. I believe
yeah,
the heavyweight division might be a one-man division at the moment, and so just not a lot of excitement in those bigger weight classes.
yeah. And for people that are listening to this episode, you could expect a lot of this. You see how we just kind of segued? We were like, this is the intro, and now we're talking about weight classes and history. Like, we're just two guys who are just such huge fans of this that we could just go on these tangents and go down rabbit holes and bounce around like that. But yeah, whenever UFC, like, because, in the olden days, it wasn't really so much a sport, so much as a martial arts competition. Weight classes weren't a thing. It wasn't governed by any kind of athletic commission. It was just you go in, you fight, and that's it. And whenever they decided to really turn into a proper sport and get title belts for weight classes, like the only one that people paid attention to back then was light heavyweight. Tito Ortiz was kind of the pioneer for like that generation, the first sport generation of UFC. Tito Ortiz was kind of the face back then. So,
Absolutely, Randy Couture. I
yeah,
mean, it's pretty wild when you think about it. The best that they had, the most popular fighters were all in that same weight class at 205. And I do believe that things are cyclical and it will come back around. It's just at the moment right now we just don't have a whole lot of depth. I don't even know if Pierre is going to stay at 205. Does he move up to heavyweight, win or lose his next fight? I believe he does. Ankalaev, while he's very talented, he's not very marketable in my opinion. He's tried the big Ankh kind of reference. I don't know. He's just, to me, he's just another guy. He's dominant in what he does. He's 22-1 or something of that nature.
yeah,
But he doesn't jump off the screen at you. So,
right.
and then after that, I don't really know who's coming other than I would say Carlos Olberg. I have seen him fight, and I do believe he's a really good contender. He's got a big fight coming up against Reyes. I think Dominic Reyes has looked good recently. I think he's on a 3-fight win streak. So that fight certainly seems to be, maybe like the number one contender fight. So we'll see how that plays out. But I don't know. They're both older guys. Olberg, I believe, is 34, as is Reyes. So I
Yeah.
wonder what the youth movement's going to look like for that division because they need some new blood.
Yeah, because when I look at 205, like you have the two guys at the top that are obviously Pereira and Ankalaev. And when you look past that, and it's not any discredit to the next fighters, they're good fighters, but they've already lost to the guys at the top. So you look at like the fight that's coming up soon, Yuri Prohaska and Khalil Roundtree, and I'm excited for that fight. I'm big fans of both those fighters, and I think they're both absolutely amazing, high talent, really good fighters. Yuri Prohaska being very versatile, grappling and striking. Khalil Roundtree just a brutal Muay Thai fighter. But the thing is, like between the two of them, they have their 0-3 against Pereira, who just lost to Ankalaev, and those are probably like the next two guys. So yeah, it's one of those things. It's you have like the guys at the very top, and then there's kind of a big gap between the next few. I think the only other name that really interests me that could put some sweat on the people in the top of the division is Zhang. I can't remember the other part of his name. Not Zhang Wei Li, obviously. The female goat. The other
Zhang Ming
Zhang,
Yang, sir.
the one who just fought Anthony Smith, and my goodness, that performance
Yes.
was nasty.
Min Yang is very good. He's going to be fighting this
Yeah.
coming up Saturday. So
Yes.
for all the
Yes.
hardcores, you will be up at 5 a.m. watching like me. So,
He's going to be fighting a bottle of whiskey, isn't he? Isn't that who he's fighting?
well, essentially, the guy's goofy as hell when he gets knocked in the face. So, yeah.
Johnny Walker. What
Johnny
label?
Walker.
What label is Johnny Walker? Is he black?
Oh,
or
he's
blue?
red label.
He's red label.
He's certainly not blue. He turns black and blue, but he's a red label.
Yeah. So that's gonna be. I wonder how fast Johnny Walker's going to get knocked down that fight. See, that should
I just
be
want to see how funny it's going to be because you know it's
right.
going to be hilarious when he gets knocked out.
We should save that for another episode where we can actually start doing prediction for that one. Is that next week or is that a couple weeks away?
That's Saturday.
That's
Saturday
this
coming
coming
up.
Saturday.
5 a.m.
And UFC's had so many events back to back to back. Like you have pay per views roughly once a month, every 3 to 5 weeks ish. You
Yeah.
know, but with
13 pay-per-views a
the
year.
fight nights, it used to be you also had like one fight night in between. Now we have a fight night almost every weekend. So it's just hard for me to keep up with them all because we just had
Well,
two fight nights back to back, and then we had
at
the
8
pay per
rates.
view, and
Correct.
then we got another one next week, early in the morning. It takes place in China.
Sure
So
does.
yeah,
Yep.
so
There's some exciting fights on that card. Exciting to see if they can expand into China. You know, they obviously have a few fighters from there now. And that's what makes it so great. MMA is great because it's done all over the world. You have sports that are unique to certain places. And of course, there's certain martial arts that are unique to places, right? Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. But what's great is fighting is elementary. It's been going on forever. People talk
right,
about the Olympic Games and how they were based on like how fast you were. So they decided to do a 100-meter dash and how strong you were. So they have, competitions where you can measure strength. But fighting it's gone on forever and it's gone on all over the world. So to be able to tie it in from all ends of the globe and truly get the elite of the elite, it's not like football, which is a special Americanized game. It's not
right.
like, basketball, which of course was made here as well. I mean, yeah, it's growing and it's becoming more global, but fighting's always happened. It's always occurred. And this MMA is the purest form of fighting. It's not boxing. It's not I'm throwing hands. It's not all the different disciplines that we have. It's just straight up actual combat, and that's what makes it so fun. You have so many elite people from everywhere representing cultures, religions, but it brings people together. Fighting it's interesting because you think of it as some negative thing on its face surface. If you saw two people fighting in the street, you'd be like, oh my God. But at the same time, it has a way of uniting people. It has a way of people coming together and having a good time with it. Even the people who fight themselves, what makes MMA great, in my opinion, one of the many things is when you see a great fight, you see two guys going at it, they're putting it all on the line. They're bleeding. They have broken bones. They have a punctured spleen, whatever it may be. And at the end of the fight, they come together, they give each other a hug, they dap them up, and they say, that was a great war. I think
Right.
about UFC. I think of UFC 300 when Gaethje got knocked out by Holloway in the BMF. I mean, one of the, if not the greatest knockout of all time. And Gaethje's in the back after the fight, yelling and screaming and hollering and congratulating Holloway because he knew he just took an epic fight. He just made an epic moment, and people came together for it. It's one of the most iconic moments ever, and he was proud to be a part of it, even though it ended the way it did.
Yeah.
So
You're talking about the cultures of the different martial arts all over the place. You mentioned Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Now, I could go down a long rabbit hole on that one. I train Jiu Jitsu. I personally don't call it Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Brazilian, I just call it Jiu Jitsu. The gym that it trains at wants to call it American Jiu Jitsu. We even started making T-shirts to say American Jiu Jitsu. But it's like if you really look at the full DNA of Jiu Jitsu, like it's not just Brazilian, it's not just Japanese, it's not just American. There is so many different nationalities that have put their stamp, put their mark in Jiu-Jitsu. So, but yeah, like it really did have a big explosion in Brazil, obviously. And actually, you brought up that point about how there's different cultures of martial arts all over the world, and that actually reminds me of a conversation I had last night when I was watching the fights, and we are talking about how good Russian fighters are. So, of course, you have these Dagestani guys and the one Chechnyan that people for some reason all think is Dagestani, but also if you just look at just like I guess you call it regular Russia. I don't know. The non-Dagestani Chechnyan Russians, like Fedor and all those guys. Russia has been one of the most dominant forces in mixed martial arts since its inception. And like I personally think Fedor is one of, if not the greatest fighter of all time. But when I was talking to one of my friends who was watching the fights with me last night, I was like, you notice how it's crazy how good Russian fighters are, not just the Dagestani wrestler guys, but just in general across the board. Russia has a long history of having really high level fighters in the MMA sphere, whether you're talking Pride or UFC or whatever. And he goes, well, the reason why is because that's basically their national sport is like sambo and wrestling. Like in America, your most athletic guys that exist most of them are not going into MMA. They're going into football. They're going to boxing. They're going to baseball. They're going to stuff like that. And in Canada, they're mostly going to hockey and also baseball, because baseball's big up there. In Russia, they don't have all that. Their most athletic guys are getting into sambo. They're getting into wrestling. So it's different. So their best guys, their most athletic, and people that could be dangerous in that way tend to go towards combat sports more, because that's their national sport, as opposed to how it is in the United States. So that's his theory, and I think it's a good theory behind why Russian fighters are so dominant.
Absolutely. Look no further than your favorite fighter, John Bones Jones, whose two brothers are in the NFL. Right. Typically you would have people from the same family all play the same sport. It's very common that you'll see, oh, that guy went pro, and oh, his brother went pro in that, and his brother went pro in that, what have you. But John Jones, who is a great athlete, but I don't think of as being a far superior athlete to anyone who's ever been in the sport. I don't think it's like so off the charts that it's unreal. He's obviously very athletic. He's obviously great, but I don't look at him as like he was the fastest or the strongest. I never thought of that. Is he tough? Is he smart? Is he all the other things that make him great? Of course. But it just goes to show you, though, if you were to actually get super elite athletes in there, what can happen. And, John Jones being what he is, amazing fighter. I think, well, we can get into John Jones later. I'm not going to do that in the first episode, but yeah, I do believe that, a lot of the elites, to your point, don't go there, but I do think that's starting to transition. I have seen better athletes come along. There's a lot of really good young prospects that I don't recognize as somebody who would have necessarily fought 10, 15 years ago in the sport. Maybe they were going to do something else. I believe that the UFC is blowing up. Its popularity is ever growing. You see where they go, they always sell out. It's always the highest gate. It's always the most views. It's always the most this, always the most that. And you're seeing it. I look at Ilia Topuria, and now Spain is like all about having a pay-per-view there. They've never had a champion. Of course, he's from Germany, but I don't know. Maybe he's got three different things going on. He's Georgian. I'm not exactly sure where Ilia Topuria is from per se, but Spain claims him, and they want to have a big pay-per-view there. You look at Imavov in France, they're going to have a big pay-per-view there. He might be headlining that. And so, there's a lot of different places that are coming about, and you're seeing a lot more athletes kind of tend to want to go to UFC or, the elite fighting places to get to UFC, because it's the ultimate goal. It's the best of the best. And so you're seeing better athletes moving up, It's just fun to watch the growth and just see where it's going.
Now I want to add real quick, when he said, your favorite fighter, John Jones, that's pure sarcasm. I am a notorious John Jones hater, and I have been a John Jones hater since before he was even champion. I'm talking his first title reign when he beat Shogun. I am the ultimate John Jones hater. So if you ever hear Rick say your favorite fighter, it is pure sarcasm. So
very much so.
And you mentioned Ilia Topuria. You said you don't know where he's from. It's actually really interesting. So he was born in Germany, but he was raised in Georgia and eventually moved to Spain.
So he's German.
Yeah. But like I think because he was raised in Georgia, so like he's kind of considered a Georgian more than anything, because I think most of his life, if I'm not mistaken, was he lived in Georgia, and it wasn't until like later as a teenager or young adult or something like that he eventually moved to Spain. I can't remember the exact.
And we're not talking Atlanta, folks. We're not talking Atlanta, just to clear that up. Some people might be thinking, wait, Atlanta, Georgia, what?
No, Georgia, the country that used to be part of Russia, that Georgia. The same one that Merab Dvalishvili is from. I could actually say his last name. Unlike
Dvalishvili.
Yeah, I'm pretty decent at pronouncing the very difficult last names from other countries in the MMA sphere, except for one. There's one last name that to this day I've heard it said a million times, and I've still never pronounced it correctly, and that's Joanna Jacek.
Would you like to buy a vowel?
No, there's. I'd like to buy a consonant, because her last name is nothing but consonants. It's like,
yeah, that's true. That's
like
true.
JYZDLMNOP. Oh wait, there's an O in there. Some, I've looked. I was like Jezrek, and I hear them say it. I've heard Joe Rogan and Bruce Buffer say her name a million times. They'll say it, and then I'll try to repeat it, and I'm like, you want to Jezrek? I can't say her name. I can't for the life of me. If you held a
That's
gun to
Miss
my
J.
head, you held a gun to my head, and be like, pronounce her name right. I'm like, just pull the trigger, man. Don't embarrass me. So
Put me out of
anyway,
my misery.
all right. Well, I think it's enough ranting now for a little introduction. So we're gonna try to record maybe once every 1 to 2 weeks, depending on our availability and how active things are in the MMA sphere. We're mostly going to be focused on UFC, but we are not opposed to looking outside of it. If there's big things going on in PFL or Bellator, I sometimes tune into those. I also tune into bare knuckle boxing. I'm a big fan of pretty much all combat sports. I started as a big fan of boxing. I trained jiu-jitsu. Big fan, obviously, of MMA across the board. I liked watching Pride back in the day. So yeah, like we'll probably mostly talk about UFC, but don't be surprised if we dig a little bit into the other combat sports out there. Pretty much everything except slap fighting, because slap fighting is the lowest form of combat sports. I saw on YouTube where it was like competitive pillow fighting. They're in like what looks like a boxing ring, and they're smacking each other with pillows.
The PFL, sir. Pillow fighting league.
I respect pillow fighting more than I respect slap fighting. So anyway,
Well,
that's
we're not going to call that a sport. We're not going to call that a sport, but yes, we won't cover that.
I refuse. I will make fun of it. I will make fun of it every episode, but
absolutely,
no, we will never support it.
No, I do know that next month there is a big boxing match, Canelo and Crawford. I do not really watch a lot of boxing, but I will be watching that. That's must-see TV.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure we'll talk about that. But yeah, we will be talking different things, but it will be mostly UFC. That's kind of what I take in. You know, I look at things, but it's typically UFC, and it's typically every Saturday. There are exceptions. I do have a family. I do have a life, but it does revolve a lot around this. And I will say that the late start times work well for me because my kids are down and I can actually look at it. If it started earlier, I feel like there would be some interference. And so it's going to be interesting to see when Paramount gets the rights, how they actually want to do the times. I don't know if that's going to change or not, but we could save that for another podcast. It's just me thinking.
That's definitely something. Yeah, it's definitely something I want to talk about because we were already talking about getting this podcast rolling before they even announced the Paramount thing. So that's definitely a topic that we'll have to dig into later because that's going to be interesting.
That's a very big game changer in combat sports. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I look forward to discussing this with you guys. Like you said, every week or two, we'll be organized. We'll have some thought out ideas, and I think this is going to roll really well. I think you see that we have good chemistry, and we're going to present the material. We try to make it funny, try to make it informative, and just have a good time with it. So
organized more or less, maybe not super organized. We'll try.
Yeah.
We're going to try.
We'll have bullet points, and we'll just fill in the blanks. Right. We'll connect the dots.
We'll ramble a little bit and get off topic, but that's because like this isn't a scripted show. We're not sitting here with the script. We have notes from like fights, and we'll talk about that. Sure. But we don't have a script. We're just two guys that love this stuff that just talk about this. This is basically what we do every day anyway. Like we are always texting or calling, or if we're hanging out, we just talk, and it's like we just want to turn this into a podcast platform. It's basically how we are in day-to-day life anyway. So. Absolutely.
We're just two real guys who are going to bring it to you real and raw.
Yep. So, and we are not plants by Zuffa or TKO or whatever. UFC, Dana White's not paying us. That's why we're never going to try to support his slap fighting stuff. We're just two fans, just like you guys listening. We just want to, put some voices out there and get some opinions out there. And we're going to try as we move forward to open some type of platform where we could get the viewers involved, where you could send messages, maybe even send like voice clips, voicemails to us or something like that. And we could play it if you want to add anything to the conversation, or maybe debate us in any kind of way. Not like a long back and forth debate, but if you want to like give counterpoints, if we say, hey, we think this coming up is going to lead to this, and you're like, actually, I have a counterpoint. We're open to that. We want this to be interactive as best we can. So I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do that just yet, because this is our first foray into getting into podcasting, so we're still learning as we go. But yeah, that's basically it. I think that's about all I have to say on the intro here. Do you have anything else you want to say? You could sign us off, Rick, if you want.
Nope. we just look forward to bringing you guys good content, and let's do this.
All right. So y'all have a good one. Maybe we'll see you next week, or maybe in just another day, because we might have another episode we'll be recording really soon to review the last pay-per-view we just watched, which was UFC 319,
Yes, sir.
when Dricus du Plessis fought Khamzat Chimaev. So we'll be reviewing that really soon. So tune in then. If you have anything you want to say to us, you could reach out to us in some type of way. I'll figure out a way to make this show interactive for everybody. Anything you want to say, Rick, before we sign out?
I do want to say this. I think potentially down the road we could have a forum where this is so interactive that you can actually maybe sit there with us. We get together for some of these fights. We could watch a fight, and kind of like how Joe Rogan has his fight podcast. Maybe we'll have for the really big ones. We'll sit in, we'll watch it, and we can be interactive with y'all. You know, we'll be able to type it out or talk it out, and you'll get real time. You know, you get real time interaction with us and real time reviews and what we're seeing. So I think it could be really fun, something that everybody could enjoy.
That's right. We look forward to spending as much time as we can with any of our viewers, unless you're fans of Power Slap. We don't need y'all around.
Y'all stay away.
All right. Well, I think that's it. So y'all have a good one. See you next time.
Bye bye.